this little steep section, Corn Dog Hill, is probably the ideal section to bridge across to those stairs where our group is, if we wanted to smooth out this slope to make it ADA compliant. Then we could go right back to DG, gravel, cobblestone, whatever the work surface is. So this was a canyon cut by the Marine Corps for who knows what reasons. There's speculation that there's gas or electrical lines running through here. In fact, there you go, right there. That says no trespassing gas. But this would be the gap to span across. From about there, along the edge of the bank, and then under us.
The cut
just down there.
The upper lot and that dip that we came through. So, as I say, up until probably late 1990s, that was still accessible as a foot trail along the bottom. Tremendous amount of poison oak in that zone, but it keeps you right at, or it was just above high water mark. And in years past, I used to hike every aspect of the marsh, and I quit doing that in the late 90s.
Down ahead is the corner where the trail meets the railroad tracks.
In an attempt to steer them to the dry crossing, we used the natural material, and I know...
which they walk over.
Yeah, I mean, again, shortest distance, the guy was going all the way up there, or else dropping right straight across. Here, if you go straight across, the visual impact as you come down the trail, leads you right straight to your destination, and so they're not going to. They can see the water. They're almost there, as opposed to having to, deviate. And this is taking them further away from their destination if they're intending to go to lowers. So some of the design concepts, take the grade and pull it a little bit higher and come around at the dry crossing. Probably a lot less impact, a lot less heartburn in terms of who we've got to deal with in terms of touching this marsh. Closer to the electrical source up here at the Life Guard Tower for the We had a sign out here that said "Watch for trains." Well, any sign you put out here, it gets covered with stickers in any case. So,
but once you acknowledge the hazard, then you're open to liability, right? I
stood on that point with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the director of California State Parks, and our chief legal counsel, and it was part of had to do with the toll road. And a train went by, and Arnold left when he saw the surfers running, and the legal counsel grabbed me by the arm and said, "Is that our trail?" And I said, "Yes, it is." And he said, "We can't have that." And I said, "I know that." And we have a sign out front that says area closed and an arrow pointing beach access. Walk all the way down the road a half mile and go underneath that's what's intended. And he said, "Well, okay, I guess that's okay." And I said, "No, really? That's all? I mean, you don't want to discuss this further?" I'm going to point out, if you look, the grade starts to go up because it crosses San Onofre Creek, and we have a trestle there that we're able to drive under with 12 feet of clearance underneath it. If you look in this direction, you also see how the grade rises to cross San Mateo Creek. So the zone that has to be lifted, if we go under, it really is about a 3/4 of a mile span here. To do an at-grade crossing in a 70-mile-an-hour zone, I believe it was almost 1,300 feet of visual, which we have in this direction. So it allows that kind of exemption can happen, and we certainly have it in that direction. They have a sliding scale based on whatever the speed of the track is. So it's California Public Utilities Commission.
Is that on both sides?
Yeah, you got to have, I think it was 1,300 or 1,400 feet on both sides for a 70-mile-an-hour zone. Now they talk about they'd like to increase this, but they really can't because they have a fairly hard left turn here, and they go to double track and sidings back here. So oftentimes the trains are slowing if they're going to do a passing maneuver here. And as they cross the bridge up at the other end, they have a hard right-hand turn coming into the city of San Clemente, where they're slowing down to, I believe, 55 on down. I think it's 45 through town, 40 through town. Okay.
Does the railroad have any plans for any upgrades not associated with this project?
Railroad will be putting in concrete steel, replacing the wooden trestles, which allows them to go a little quicker across that zone. Right now, the old wooden trestle is getting a little shaky. It's been there for a while, and that causes them to slow down now.
So this whole section here will be replaced with...
No. This section was retracked probably about 15 years ago, and all they do at present is just drop ballast. But in order to go underneath, again, I explained there, right behind us here, there is a dip. We're up on a berm. We're up on a grade that was created by the railroad when they ran this through here.
Where under there is where the grade is lower, and if the trail were to deviate off course a little bit, we could come access lower, pass right through here, raise the track slightly. I would be standing about 5 feet lower than I am right now, and we could shoot right underneath the tracks, boardwalk / bridge our way across the wetland, and access straight to the beach.
Yes, it does restore itself, but
Wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to?
right, it's destroying habitat. There are all kinds of critters that live in there. Okay, I'm standing at high water mark. It'll back up this high, so any underneath solution, this would be the low point, unless we want to start building pumps and drains into this equation. But you can see I am below track level. The insert, or the railroad has their ideas.
Train.
In fact, they have
the trains are really quiet.
Yeah, you can hear
Yeah,
that.
until it really gets hot.
raising the roadbed
4 feet.
about 2 weeks only, because they come in at night, they do all the work at night, they have an apparatus that actually lifts the track up, and it's not just, in this case they're changing grade, it's, we got ballast on top of grade, but they're adept at doing this. They've been building railroads
So what do they do with the 60 trains coming through every day?
at nighttime, it's virtually down to like maybe 3 freight trains in the middle of the night. Depends on time of week, and they would have to schedule it at a time and work around it. And there's a siding right back here that they could pull back off, let that traffic through. But it would all be done at night, and they raise it. And then 2 nights to put an insert in. They have prefab inserts that they would prefer as the underpass.
Kind of like a bunker.
Yeah. And then it could be dressed up, of course. And surfers will dress it up with stickers or whatever.
They'd have to stop traffic. I don't know what the guy's talking about. I've done this in a project. I mean, if you're going to raise the level of the track, you have to divert the traffic. There's no way. Yeah, they can do it in 2 weeks, but you're going to have portions of the track that are like this and other portions that are down here.
Oh no, they go through over the course of the night this entire 1 mile stretch, and they'll raise it 6 inches, and then they come the next night.
Oh, so they're doing it incrementally?
Yeah, they do it in stages. They have the apparatus, and again with all the sidings down here, they can bring all the material in, and it's there and available in the cars, but it's a layer at a time, and they build it up. But then, as we raise this, okay, you lose a little bit of your view shed and perspective coming from the other direction, and you've now, through this entire corridor, elevated the track, so it has a negative view impact. Back to, leaving it where it is, a heck of a lot cheaper. Getting the lobbyists to get the exemption is probably having both alternatives, on the one hand, state parks in the end, as an outcome, there are going to be these concepts that, okay, let's really start pushing now. We have ideas and we can envision what can happen down here. We might want to hold those underneath in the back pocket and say, no, we're going to go for this because it will cost less, and in the end, I think it has less environmental impacts.
Is there an environmental impact review process that this project will have to go through?
I would think so. Again, in a perfect world, the Public Utilities Commission would say, yeah, you can do an at-grade. And again, I stood with their Southern California representative, actually Rich Hayden, who you'll meet at noon, the park superintendent that took my place, met with the director of Public Utilities. It was a chance meeting. She was up here looking at this site during the surf contest because of the controversy and the dialogue that has been floating around for quite some time. And she told him at that time, no, you've got to go over or you've got to go under. But again, we're prepared for that. And Catherine heard it for the years that the city was doing battle. It can be done, and that would be the desirable from the economic standpoint. $70,000 or $100,000 for a lobbyist, as opposed to the guy said $2.5 million. If you contracted our company, $2.5 million to lift this and that was 6 years ago.
Yeah, I don't believe that because the actual underpass right now is going about anywhere between 1 3/4 to $2.5 million just for the structure to go underneath. That has nothing to do with raising the grade of the tracks.
6 years ago, he just said ballpark off the top of my head, cheapest that we could do for you.
Oh, times that by 2 at least. Right. Now.
Yeah.
If it's 6 years ago.
So
Well, I'm giving you current numbers on just the bunker.
And you kind of also have to wonder if people just basically use it however they want anyway, and if a tunnel isn't very attractive or appealing,
Aren't they still going to go?
will it be effective?
Well, we would have to channelize them.
You'd have to really enforce it.
There would have to be
There will have to be some
barricades
fencing
and
on
fencing.
either side.
Yeah.
anything we touch in the natural preserve is going to go through the highest level of scrutiny. Anything we take has to be replaced someplace else. And again, back to the easier solution is staying at grade. And I think the interpretive educational opportunity, there's a whole branch of state parks that deals with what those messages would be for this particular area. We're in the foundation is in the process right now. We've been very successful writing grants and getting money to do interpretive panels throughout the park. Again, 5th most popular park in California, and the entire operating budget for education and interpretation for this park and San Clemente is $13,000 a year. And yet, interpretation and education is a cornerstone of what state parks is to be providing. So we do pretty good on recreation. Some parks we do a lot better on education and interpretation. That's why the foundation came into existence, to help state parks deliver on that end. And this is an interpretive opportunity. That's how we can be involved, even though it's also a resource management issue, recreation management, and a safety issue. So we're going to head back that way.
You said that the two existing trestles were higher than this point?
Yeah.
How much higher are they? Do you know?
Probably about 4 to 5 feet higher than this exact spot. As you stand up here on the track, you look in both directions and you'll see the elevation. On the road on this end, when we drive underneath that trestle, we actually have 12 feet clearance. That road is prone to swamping during the winter before San Onofre Creek is breached, and at times we're driving through 18 inches of water if it's backed well up. And then finally it breaches and the road's accessible again with that 12 clearance. So it's probably about 4 feet higher on either end.
The reason I'm asking is because if we raise the grade, my understanding is that there are limits to how much tracks can change in grade. And if that had not been true, at 4 you'd be all the way, you'd be into Orange County, and then you'd have another jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And I think from what you're saying, you're probably not going to have to deal with Octa. And
It'll be, yeah.
It'll just be North
San
We'll
Diego-
only have
San
to
Diego County.
change the track height between the two trestles from a low spot to level or slightly higher.
Yeah.
But those 2 points are kind of our fixed points that don't need, well, actually cost effectively aren't going to change.
well, they're going to replace that one in that direction.
Right.
So,
But there's an actual steel bridge that goes across the